Alright, so this video is going to be a little bit different than my previous battle breakdowns because I will be going over both the scaling for each character in this and also how an encounter between the two would go if they would actually fight or how the fight would actually go down. Starting off with Hiroshimasaurus, obviously, because that's who's taking on the entire verse here. Hiroshimasaurus is massive. Over 300 feet and weighing over 80,000 pounds. 80,000 pounds. Hiroshimasaurus is incredibly powerful too, with Ukrainezilla stating that his atomic breath, or its atomic breath, is capable of damage well beyond what we see -1's atomic breath do, as it also has the similar atomic explosion at the end of it, only obviously to a larger scale once it reaches its fourth form, which I'm going to have it in right off the bat in this because I just feel like it makes sense to have Hiroshimasaurus at its best against the Trevor Henderson verse. For speed, we do see it actively swimming speed, at least, moving as fast as like warships and submarines. So in the water, it's faster than almost any Trevor Henderson monster. On land, it should realistically already be at like super high speed, since it's just massive, and in earlier forms it was capable of sprinting. So its speed is likely in the somewhere between 400 to over 1,000 miles per hour, depending on how fast you think it's sprinting. More likely somewhere around 600 to 700 due to the size and how fast it would probably sprint. For reference, that's a little bit faster than like Monsterverse or like Final Wars Godzilla's speed, so that's decent. Hiroshimasaurus is also basically unaffected by most man-made weapons in its not final, but highest form we've seen so far. Although in earlier forms it was pretty easily taken down. Well, not really taken down, but badly injured by man-made weapons, as weak as like a 50 caliber machine gun. Currently, it's taking attacks like that with almost no damage whatsoever, and actively evolving mid-fight to just be better at taking damage and dishing out more damage. So unlike Shin Godzilla, where people like to bring up the evolution, this Hiroshimasaurus' evolution doesn't take hours or days. It can happen almost instantly. The atomic breath, as for how hot it is, we see it effortlessly melt straight through military vehicles, and it's stronger now than it was when it did that. So it's definitely hotter than like your average atomic. It's probably around the same heat as like a really powerful atomic blast. However, you can get this even higher since it is just straight radiation. You can compare it directly to how hot an actual just straight radiation beam would be, which is pretty insane in the heat spectrum. Easily melting through stuff like metal like it's nothing. As for it's the speed of the attack, it's so far been basically only compared to radiation or atomic energy. So radiation, most likely it's supposed to be like the other normal canon Godzilla's atomic breath, which is Chernivog radiation, which is around or at light speed usually. So more likely than not, Hiroshimasaurus is essentially firing a really powerful atomic laser that also nukes stuff upon impact. So there's very few Trevor Henderson monsters that could even dodge that, so they're going to have to be able to withstand that if they're fighting out of range. As for intelligence, Hiroshimasaurus is not stupid, but not absurdly intelligent either. Likely less intelligent than a human, but smart. It's like comparable to like a pack hunter style animal. You can make a pretty decent argument that it's on the higher spectrum of intelligence for animals, as it seems to actively take joy from hurting stuff and seems to be actively aggressive. Believe it or not, being psychotic as an animal actually indicates you're pretty intelligent. This is seen with stuff like orcas being kind of assholes to their prey, and cats are the same way. Both of them are pretty intelligent for animals, orcas being almost intelligent as people. Octopus can be the same way, same with even some versions of squids. So likely not as intelligent as a human in just IQ, but for like battle IQ and stuff, Hiroshimasaurus is likely very intelligent for an animal. As for physical strength, we haven't really seen anything too insane, but Hiroshimasaurus more likely than not can throw around warships and smash through buildings pretty casually. I would put Hiroshimasaurus' physical strength above something like -1, since that does seem to be one of the inspirations behind it, along with obviously the original Godzilla and Black Mass fan-made Godzilla. So you can honestly kind of scale Hiroshimasaurus off those three. If you were to do that, it adds a lot of different feats into there that I'm not sure if Ukrainezilla really means for Hiroshimasaurus to be either that strong or that weak, depending on how you look at it. For reference, if you scale Hiroshimasaurus' physical strength to -1, but then scale that up to Hiroshimasaurus' size, you're looking at something that can easily pulverize buildings casually with a single tail swipe. And I mean like big skyscraper-sized buildings due to the size upgrade. To scale Hiroshimasaurus to Black Mass Godzilla, it's almost identical, just potentially a little bit physically stronger and maybe a little bit faster, but not to like an insane degree. If you scale Hiroshimasaurus directly to the original Godzilla, that's when the scaling takes a massive jump, and this is where I don't really see it being all that consistent unless you really hype up the AP not being the same as DC argument, because the original Godzilla at a low end is mountain level and at a high end is multi-continental due to the ocean boiling feat being calced anywhere from mountain to multi-continental depending on who you ask. Most people will have it around mountain, but some people, like myself, will put it all the way up to multi-continental just because I feel like that's more consistent with showings of other Godzillas in the Showa era. And even other branching timelines having Godzillas like Heisei that are like fucking planetary, just like off their own feet without even cross-scaling. And I mean like planetary low, like really low-balled early era. That's not counting all the higher dimensional and universal and all that insane stuff that happens later. So you could argue Hiroshimasaurus is as high as multi-continental or as low as City Plus. City Plus is the lowest you can possibly go because the atomic breath itself is going to be at least City Plus. As -1's atomic breath is scaled directly to City Plus, Hiroshimasaurus' atomic breath is confirmed much stronger by Ukrainezilla herself, so you kind of have to take that statement into consideration with this. Now, it's more likely than not, at least around country level, if you want to go like how the statement's put out there. But it's hard to know because we haven't really seen the atomic breath at its full potential yet. We likely will soon. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Hiroshimasaurus being at least like small country level, potentially higher. And if you want to go high, like with high ball scaling, probably around continental to multi-continental with higher ends. But yeah, I'm going with likely country level-ish power. Okay, so Hiroshimasaurus' first opponent's going to be the God of Roadkill. One huge disclaimer for all the Trevor Henderson monsters on here: information on them is obviously hard to find because Trevor Henderson puts little information out on purpose. He's purposely vague about what the creatures can do, etc. So actual information on it's mainly from speculation or random just statements he's put out. So potentially, if another statement comes out after this video is made about the God of Roadkill, just randomly gets amped to a much higher level of scaling than you can currently get him to, then obviously this whole video is going to be, well, this part of the video is going to be incorrect, but this is off what we know as of now about the God of Roadkill. And since there haven't been very many statements about this particular monster in quite some time, I doubt that's going to happen anyway. So the God of Roadkill, from what I've gathered on it, which is admittedly not a lot compared to the stuff I gathered on stuff like Siren Head, Day 17, or the Wandering Faith, whatever you want to call it, and Cartoon Cat, which are the ones I had to do a lot of research on, because unlike the God of Roadkill, there's actually some pretty decent information on those three. But God of Roadkill I don't see doing much in a fight against Hiroshimasaurus at all. You'll see when I start scaling him. As for like size, the God of Roadkill is not that big. Most estimates are around 20, maybe 30 feet if you want to highball it. The image seems to indicate more like 20, maybe less than 20, down to like 10 feet. As estimates change depending on who's doing the estimate and blah, etc. But the God of Roadkill's abilities seem to be more based on not dying than actually dealing damage. His massive size isn't doing much against something that's literally over several hundred feet taller than and way heavier than him by several thousand tons. His abilities don't seem to really be that impressive compared to Hiroshimasaurus. Like, there's some stuff that indicates he might be able to manipulate souls, and like he could be partially omnipresent. But I mean, how are you going to manipulate Hiroshima's soul before he just like smashes you into the ground like an insect? Like, it's not going to happen, especially since his speed feats are admittedly not great. At best, you can scale him to like a car, so maybe a couple 100 miles per hour if you want to highball for his like running speed. His reaction speed wouldn't really be there. You could argue it'd be as good as like a professional racer if you were to really highball his reaction speed, which is pretty good, but it's not like anywhere near fast enough to avoid getting curb stomped by someone who's faster and stronger than you and likely has a better reaction speed. As you could honestly make the argument Hiroshimasaurus should be able to react to his own beam. And if you do make that argument, which is admittedly pretty shaky as we've never actually seen it happen, but if you want to go by that argument, then yeah, Hiroshimasaurus is quite literally speed blitzing and stomping him to the dirt. But in an actual fight, it wouldn't just be like who's faster, who's stronger. It'd be how they'd even interact in the first place. And I don't really see them interacting ever, but assuming Hiroshimasaurus just happens to be on a road randomly and the god of roadkill is after someone, yeah. To Hiroshimasaurus, the god of roadkill is not going to be anything different than just an average human. Like, yeah, he could potentially escape if he just uses the human he's after as like a meat shield, throws a whole car at Hiroshimasaurus and just sprints like his life depends on it, because it most definitely does. But he's not doing anything in a fight scenario, and I doubt he'd even try to fight something like Hiroshimasaurus. You could make the argument he's immortal and would just come back. That doesn't stop him from getting crushed like a bug. And Hiroshimasaurus has the same argument due to the regeneration, and no real indication that due to its odd biology and rapid healing, that Hiroshimasaurus could even die of old age. Since most Godzillas with regeneration seem to kind of just be immune to that. Godzilla Earth is a great example. So is the Monsterverse version of Godzilla. Heisei Godzilla also would have likely been immortal if he didn't overheat and explode. And you could even argue that -1 is going to be immune to old age because, I mean, he just kind of seems immune to it already. So, yeah, God of Roadkill is getting like one-shotted easily if they did encounter each other. The only real way he even survives the fight is if he does extreme measures to get away. And even then, if Hiroshimasaurus really wanted him dead, all he has to do is just atomic breath him right where he's running, and it's going to be a nuclear blast. I don't see the God of Roadkill surviving that. Or at the very least, I don't see his physical form surviving that at all, just due to what it does to tanks at a lower level than it is currently. Next opponents are a set of 4. We have the Skunk Queen, the Good Boy, the Rotwalker, and the it's Fetid King. Anyways, they're all not doing too hot here. Skunk Queen appears to be ape-like in nature, sort of resembling an orangutan, but with an extra arm for some reason. In terms of size, it's potentially a little bit bigger than orangutan, and orangutans are already pretty strong. Some of them get almost as strong as like a weaker gorilla, not like quite as strong as like your average gorilla or anything like that, but they're pretty strong. They're also the biggest heavy ape out there currently, if you don't count ones that are extinct, but some people still think they exist, like Gigantopithecus. But yeah, even with that, that's like throwing Curious George without any Toon Force or anything like that people seem to think he has, which he kind of does. But it's like throwing like just a straight up normal chimp, like a teenage chimp at a Tyrannosaurus Rex is the best way I can describe it. It's not going well for the Skunk Queen at all. If they actually did encounter each other, the best you can get an orangutan at is like wall level-ish, whereas Hiroshimasaurus is like city plus, like grossly lowballed. So, and that's like physical and atomic strength, since most Godzilla scale somewhat to their atomic breath, besides like -1. Hiroshimasaurus seems more durable than -1, at least to a degree. So maybe not scaling directly to the atomic breath, but like we see Hiroshimasaurus basically pulverize buildings by like just stomping. So yeah, at lowest physical strength, a casual attack from Hiroshimasaurus is like small building to large building, potentially higher, since it seems to be pulverizing, not just breaking buildings, meaning it's like basically reducing them to near dust with just like one hit. So a casual flick in the Skunk Clean is like literally red mist, like gone, like destroyed. Like every bone in the Skunk Clean's body is like shattered like glass. The Rotwalker is not doing much better, despite being more supernatural in nature and potentially stronger as it scales directly to like a bull. What is 4 pieces of rebar going to do to essentially a kaiju-sized atomic dinosaur? Nothing. Hiroshimasaurus is quite literally eating the Rotwalker like it's nothing. The Fetid King isn't doing anything at all, for the simple reason the Fetid King is he's a supernatural being, but he's more of a computer-based being, so he's gonna like infect electronics. If they somehow did encounter each other, let's say he went out of the computer to kill someone, he shouldn't really scale that high since he's a computer virus. You can say he has supernatural ghost abilities. That's not doing much to Hiroshimasaurus. Like, come on. Like, do you think Annabelle is beating Godzilla in a death battle? Like, probably not. So even with that, the best you get is like him just leaving Hiroshimasaurus alone, or just going back into a different computer and just searching the internet to get away, because more likely than not, Hiroshimasaurus could kill him if he has a physical form. And atomic energy would actually affect energy, which is technically what your soul should realistically be, going off just like real life science and even supernatural studies. So it's very possible Hiroshimasaurus could affect a ghost given a physical form. Any Godzilla, for that matter, could probably do that, although obviously souls work different in fiction than they should in real life. And even then, the concept of a soul is a very shaky thing in real life to begin with. It's very based in religious stuff and also somewhat based in some strange science stuff, but it's something that isn't really touched on much. Anyways, let's get out of this little weird tangent. The good boy is doing nothing. His whole thing is that he just kind of kills people, and he waits for them to show up. If he's waiting for someone to show up and Hiroshimasaurus shows up instead, he's getting eaten like a fucking chicken nugget. Like, he can't do anything. He's like the size of a dog. You can say, well, he seems to have the ability to insta-kill and some stuff. Like, how does he insta-kill? Because from what I've seen from people claiming this, they claim he just like makes people explode, which I don't understand that concept at all. To me, it's always seemed like he just kind of kills them, like physically kills them. But even if you go off him just making people explode, you could do that to Hiroshimasaurus and it would just regenerate back to its full form in like 10 minutes. So, and then it's going to atomic breath him with the force of a nuclear bomb. Not going to go very well there. Next, Hiroshimasaurus is taking on what is basically the face of the entire Trevor Henderson universe, unless you consider Cartoon Cat above him in popularity, but whatever. The Siren Head. There could be multiple, there could be one, I don't really care. I'm only scaling one of them for this fight, because, you know, it's a 1v1 fight. Anyways, Siren Head is usually depicted as around 40-ish feet. His weight shouldn't be really that crazy. He's basically a skeleton. Like, yeah, he has some skin and flesh and obviously the sirens, but he's basically a mummy, which is basically a skeleton. So he's probably quite light for his height and like overall size. As for abilities, from what we do know, he can affect your senses, so he has some supernatural. So technically be using certain sound frequencies emitted from his sirens. There are frequencies in real life that can affect your senses in weird ways, making you overly scared, anxious, etc. Most of them are frequencies you can't really hear, but they still affect you and you feel them. Certain animal roars have this, like lions roar and stuff like that. So it's potentially not even supernatural, but they do seem to indicate he has supernatural stuff anyway, so it could maybe actually be both, honestly. He can obviously make very loud sounds. His normal sounds are capable of just straight up bursting your eardrums and even making your gums bleed and stuff like that, which is definitely going to affect Hiroshimasaurus, but not like to an unbelievable degree. Hiroshimasaurus is just regularly getting hit with cannons and tanks and stuff like that. Those are all pretty loud. And if you're standing right next to them, they can do basically the same thing. Maybe not as loud as a creature specifically designed to, you know, deafen you, but I feel like Hiroshimasaurus can at least withstand maybe a scream or two. However, the sonic blasts are kind of an issue, as Siren Head can just straight up amp the sound up all the way up to just insane amounts of sound. Some people claim that the sonic burst is strong enough to just insta-kill like large groups of people if it's getting attacked by like, say, 30-ish people. In order to insta-kill someone, the lower end is that it's either such a low or high sound. It's just basic. I forgot how it works, but it's hard to explain how it works. It's weird. It's like a pressure thing, but it kills you. And in order to do that, it has to be extremely loud. Loud enough that it is louder than probably anything Hiroshimasaurus has heard. However, the way it kills you doesn't take into effect the regeneration factor that Hiroshimasaurus would have anyway. So it wouldn't actually kill Hiroshimasaurus. It would just hurt a lot. It has something to do with air, but it's hard to explain. It's weird. There's a video on Godzilla's roar that explains it. Like, legend of how loud Godzilla's roar would be in real life. It explains the whole thing. There's like a lot of stuff, and it's weird. Anyways, if the higher ends of this is that it just makes your head explode, which is even worse than the other way it could kill you, which involves like an air bubble and all sorts of stuff. But if you do with the head exploding thing, that's gonna obviously rupture Hiroshimasaurus's ears and potentially even mess with its brain, but the regen would basically save it. So what else can Siren Head do other than just yelling really loud? He does have claws that do seem to be strong enough to rip tanks and small buildings apart pretty casually from what I've been hearing and what I've seen. There are some people who claim he's a higher dimensional being. However, that seems incredibly inconsistent with him getting curb stomped by like Cartoon Cat in like half a second. Sometimes he does better, but he's usually getting smacked around like nothing. He also doesn't seem to scale to the giants, which are much more in the higher dimensionality argument. You can't really confirm they are, but they have arguments of being literal angels. So if they're like 40 at least, potentially, off some statements, and Siren Head can't even like scratch one of them, then obviously Siren Head's going to be lesser, more likely not even higher dimensional. Plus, all the arguments for it are just like them saying that he's really old and stuff. That doesn't make him higher dimensional. They also claim that he can like teleport. That also wouldn't make him higher dimensional, unless it's some sort of dimensional warp, which is kind of iffy, because there's people that claim that stuff like Bigfoot can do that too. So, I mean, do you think a Sasquatch is higher dimensional? Probably not. So, all the higher dimensional arguments are super inconsistent for Siren Head, unless you're going off like very one-off things that he's done, which there's very little of those that even come close to debunking his worst showings, such as the fact he would canonically lose to several other monsters in his mythos that have far less higher dimensional arguments. So, yeah, he's not doing too hot there. As for his like running speed, the highest calc I've seen for his speed, or the highest that I've ever seen anyone put him at without it being like going off weird random stuff that he shouldn't naturally scale to, is around 250 miles per hour, which is really fast, but it's slower than Hiroshimasaurus's potential run speed. That's like a low-end Hiroshimasaurus sprint speed, potentially even a low-end walk speed. So, yeah, not doing too well there. As for other abilities, he can mess with technology, radios, sounds, senses, as I've already mentioned. He can also cause illusions. He has a whole lot of hacksy mess with your senses stuff, but Hiroshimasaurus is far more offensive than defensive, like Siren Head seems to be. So if they were to encounter each other, it'd most likely be in the wilderness after Hiroshimasaurus just got busy flattening a city or something. Upon seeing Hiroshimasaurus, I don't think Siren Head would actually engage. The main reason is the humongous size difference. Hiroshimasaurus is significantly larger. 308 feet compared to 40 feet. That's a pretty significant difference. Not to mention the massive weight differences. Hiroshimasaurus is pretty built, and Siren Head's basically a skeleton. So, if Siren Head did somehow get spotted by Hiroshimasaurus, which is unlikely due to his camouflage and abilities to mess with senses to make him harder to detect, he's dying instantly. He can't run fast enough to escape. He doesn't have the like regeneration to continuously survive like the roadkill god would. He also can't just teleport through technology like the Fennec King should be capable of doing, so his only chance is to use the trees to try to escape, but Hiroshimasaurus just be running over those like a fucking giant car driving through like grass, so it's not going to go well for him, no matter how you put it. You could argue you could try to just do a bunch of sonic blasts to get away, or potentially use his weird teleportation that they claim he has. Even then, if he does even like a little bit of damage to Hiroshimasaurus is going to be following him for like ever until he gets the kill, and that's going to probably be very quick with the atomic breath, more likely than not being a one-shot. For most of Trevor Henderson's monsters probably are not surviving a high-level nuclear blast to the face, especially not when the thing shooting it can just spam the shit out of it too. So that also is without even using the radiation poisoning, which just got released in a newer Goes to Hiroshima thing. So the radiation poisoning breath, or I don't even know the name of it. Essentially, it's like atomic breath, but it's these little particles. They burn everything, can poison people. It doesn't seem like super overpowered, but like, I mean, Hiroshimasaurus could kill him just by like breathing, is what I'm trying to specify here. Hiroshimasaurus can breathe and poison him, and he would start like just dying. That's how this fight would go. So yeah, Hiroshimasaurus pretty much low diffs Siren Head with almost no difficulty. Okay, so his next opponent will be the Stalker. He is likely a little bit larger than Siren Head. At most estimates, putting him around 50-ish feet. And he is a little, just slightly bulkier than Siren Head. Also, his head is obviously bigger because instead of it being two little-ass sirens, it's an actual human-style head. However, unlike Siren Head, he's more so a city animal, not a out in the wild, weird, fucking country monster. So, he's more likely than Siren Head to run into Hiroshimasaurus, is what I'm trying to say. And unlike Siren Head, I don't see him really engaging unless he like wants to, because Siren Head, although he likely wouldn't engage, if Hiroshimasaurus is killing all of his prey, he's probably going to do something. This guy, he can just go to another city. Siren Head, he seems more territorial, also a little bit more confident in his abilities, as he's actually fought other monsters before. This guy seems to have only really taken on humans and the human military, and only when he's been forced into it. Obviously, he hunts humans, duh. But, yeah. If Hiroshimasaurus does see him, which is admittedly a little unlikely, as this guy seems to be able to evade humans seeing him constantly, and does seem to be built for stealth, Hiroshimasaurus would just annihilate him without any questions whatsoever. This guy seems to be a little bit faster than like Siren Head's typical run speed, and Siren Head's best speed is on all fours. This guy seems to be built for more all fours travel, so he's probably faster, but at best he's like Hiroshimasaurus' speed, not much faster than Hiroshimasaurus. So it'd be like a person running after like a small dog. The dog's probably faster at first, but like it's not going to last forever. Humans are going to have better stamina. Hiroshimasaurus likely has way better stamina due to regeneration, seeming to be infinite. So yeah, Hiroshimasaurus is tracking him down and munching on his face within like 2 seconds. This guy's this guy's basically a Siren Head, but with less axe and better stealth and speed. So he's probably doing worse than Siren Head. Although likely a little bit physically stronger, he's not. It's like a guy fighting a Utah raptor. It's not going well. It's going very poorly, actually. So on to the next one, I guess. We have Rawhead Rex. He is around 40 to like 60 feet is the estimates I had for him. So he is bigger than Siren Head, most likely, both in height and also weight, due to him being significantly bulkier. And obviously the head being like, just stupidly big for the body. However, Hiroshimasaurus is not only larger, but likely significantly stronger. And yeah, this is like the same as the last fight, basically, except this guy's not going to try to hide. From the info on him, it seems he's more likely to actively try to attack Hiroshimasaurus, despite being way smaller. So he gets stomped on, and yeah, that's about how it goes. We have the first real challenge for Hiroshimasaurus here, and that is the watchtower. One major thing about this is that the height seems to change from what image you're using and other stuff, but most estimates are anywhere from at least around 300 to over 1,000 feet, more likely somewhere in between that, so likely taller than Hiroshimasaurus, and probably heavier due to the way she's built. Now, right off the bat, there are some arguments that since the watchtower is arguably one of the, well, not really arguably, but might be connected to the giants, there is proof to support she is, but there's also some stuff that claims she isn't. It's the same way with breaking news, but breaking news does actually seem to be part of the giants. Watchtower is more debatable, but she doesn't seem to be one of the stronger variations, but the giants are, according to some people, angels. Or at least something similar to the biblically accurate angels. Now, if you were to take this literally, then she would one-shot Hiroshimasaurus, because even lower level angels in the Bible can be scaled to like universal, and even in other religions connected to Christianity and stuff like that, with angel-like beings, they're always at the planetary range at least, and sometimes they get even higher than your normal Bible angel, depending on what type of being that's kind of the angel in its mythos or religion or whatever you want to call it. But if you take that scaling, watchtower one shots, because obviously if you go more off what we actually see in the Trevor Henderson verse, it's more likely than not that a watchtower does decent in like a physical fight, but likely does pretty poor in anything ranged or in a prolonged fight. As the best you can really scale most of the smaller giant-like animals in the Trevor Henderson verse is anywhere from town to city level, and that's off just physical strength. Obviously the watchtower should have some hacks, but we don't really know what they are. It's more likely stuff like Siren Head and even Cartoon Cat have, where it's more so affecting with your voice, with like sound, senses, basically messing with your head. That's not going to do much. Hiroshimasaurus, who's, although not immune to that, less likely to really care about it than a person would. Like, I don't think you're really going to intimidate Hiroshimasaurus. Even if you were an actually biblically accurate angel, he's probably just going to stare at you, try to fight you regardless of what you are. Even if he's going to get one shot, he doesn't care. He's a nightmare monster out to kill you. That's his one purpose, is to cause chaos. So, the way I see the fight going, if you're going off the like angel scaling, would be basically Hiroshimasaurus runs at her, she just like blinks and he just disappears. If you're going off what we know of the character, excluding angel stuff that's very shaky, then I see them fighting for a while. Hiroshimasaurus either A, atomic breaths her right in the face and it's over, B, uses the poison to just weaken her over time and then eventually gets the upper hand, or C, after a prolonged fight, he eventually gets a good bite right on her neck and rips her throat out. That seems to be her weak point, and Hiroshimasaurus is going to take advantage of that and just one-shot her like that eventually. So, this one's a 50-50 for me, depending on what scaling you use. Breaking News has basically the exact same arguments for the angel stuff, only his seems far more likely than Watchtower's does. However, obviously, again, if you use the angel arguments, he's one-shotting, but if you just go off what we see, he still does significantly well. His normal height estimates are over 1,000 feet, and there are a lot of people who claim he can change size, which does seem to be pretty accurate from his size seeming to just change from image to image. So, I think he does very well in a physical fight. He's probably honestly ragdolling Hiroshimasaurus, but he's not getting away completely unharmed unless you take the angel scaling into account. Hiroshimasaurus' teeth are still sharp, and the regeneration is still insane. So, if he smashes Hiroshimasaurus into a puddle, he's just coming back. It's not going to stop anything. Now, I could see him winning a couple rounds, but if Hiroshimasaurus is dead set on killing him, he's going to get the upper hand eventually. Also, from a range, if you exclude angel scaling, obviously, the atomic breath is likely a one-shot if he hits him right in the face. I don't like the Giants have arguments for being able to withstand any of mankind's weapons, as they do seem to just be immune to anything that would have been thrown at them. But despite the atomic breath not quite scaling to something like Tsar Bomba, prolonged atomic bombs to your face is probably still going to kill you eventually. Like, just like take it this way. Characters like Homelander have statements that claim that they would be immune to like a prolonged, or not like a just a single full power, highest we have, nuclear or hydrogen bomb. Now, if you drop like 50 of those on him repeatedly, do you still think he's immune to it? It's like a bulletproof vest. You shoot it once with a bullet, and then you shoot the same spot like 12 times, it's going to eventually break through the vest. That's how that works. So, Hiroshimasaurus in a prolonged fight is winning, and just a single, like, one-on-one, just a singular fight, just singular battle, not like a prolonged series of events after. Breaking news is quite literally smashing Hiroshimasaurus to like a puddle. Unless it's at a range, then it's a 50-50. Depends on if Hiroshimasaurus can get multiple shots off in vital areas before Breaking News closes the gap and essentially ragdolls them across an entire city in like one hit. So this one's again a 50-50. Treehead is a very similar thing to Breaking News, only the size estimates are a little bit more flexible, with some being a couple hundred, like higher hundreds feet, and others being lower into the thousands, but more likely than not, probably somewhere around Breaking News' height. Only, unlike Breaking News, Treehead does seem to be a little bit more passive and less out to kill you. There's also less arguments to support that Treehead is actually a giant. Although you could make the argument due to the tendrils and the obvious size, sort of indicating that. It seems less likely than, you know, the other ones that have far more confirmation that they're actually part of the giants. So Treehead, without the as solid angel scaling, is going to have to rely mainly on what we know Treehead can do, and that isn't much. The durability should be less than that of Breaking News due to Treehead being, again, more passive and less likely to attack somebody, with there even being indications that it won't even attack people filming it and will just walk away or scurry away, as some people put it, which doesn't make sense for its size, but whatever. So it's less likely it's actually had to deal with man-made weapons before. So yeah, you can't really make the argument a single atomic breath when it just blows heads off. And yes, there's multiple heads there. There's like 5. So yeah, this one's even more one-sided than the like Siren Head one is, because at least Siren Head's going to try to fight back. Treehead's likely far too slow and far too just non-aggressive to even consider attacking Hiroshimasaurus on the spot. And he's not going to be able to dodge a light speed attack to the face, even if it's from like a mile away. So yeah, that's how that fight goes. On to the Wandering Faith, or Day 17. This is confirmed to be part of the Giants, like 100%. There's like, oh, it's confirmed, like it's part of the Giants. So the angel scaling obviously comes into play, and if you take that into account, yet again, it's a one-shot. So keep that in mind if you're someone that believes in the biblically accurate angel scaling for the Giants in the Trevor Henderson verse. If you believe in that, this fight's going to be a one-shot for the Trevor Hendersons. They're literally just stomping on Hiroshimasaurus. The size of this is odd, as it does seem to change, but it is definitely, like, no debate over 1,000 feet. It's likely taller than that too, as there's implications that it goes above the clouds. So it's potentially miles tall. You can get to stupid amounts of height for this thing. The problem with it is, unlike the other giants, although it's likely way stronger, if you take the angel scaling away, it's going to be slow. It's going to be very hard for it to even know where Hiroshimasaurus is due to the massive size difference. Hiroshimasaurus is going to be tiny compared to it. And also, its weapons are pretty bad. Unless you take in the scaling for it, its weapons are horrible. Its tendrils are tiny. They're meant to grab people. Like, I guess you could wrap all of them around Hiroshimasaurus, try to lift it, but, like, you're lifting a living nuke up to you. It's not a smart idea. Its legs could potentially one-shot just due to the size, but it's slow, yet again. And Hiroshimasaurus isn't stupid. Again, like most angels, it does have the, most giants that scale to the angels, it scales to, obviously, man-made weapons. So it could potentially take more than one atomic breath, likely several dozen, to actually do any real damage. At a range, Hiroshimasaurus is going to be able to just spam that shit at him for like hours until he gets over there. And potentially he could just stay at a distance the entire fight, just continuously run back and then keep firing, because day 17s or the run-doing fates, whatever you want to call them, they're slow. That's like canon, they're very slow. You could argue that since they have that higher dimensional scaling, arguably they can just teleport. Well, the scaling's shaky, but if you believe in that, then yeah, he'll just teleport to Hiroshimasaurus and step on him. But even then, even with the size difference, even if they get a good hit, like, he's not going to know Hiroshimasaurus is just going to come right back from just regeneration. You can also argue, what if it tries to eat him? First of all, we don't really ever see its face, so if it does try to eat him, we don't even know if it could. There are other images of giants that show what its face could look like, and they do have working jaws, apparently, so if it does try to eat Hiroshimasaurus, it's going to be horribly bad, for the simple reason Hiroshimasaurus is going to evolve specifically to kill him from the inside. That's how it's going to go. There's also the argument that if it does scale to the angel scaling, and it just decides to eat him for whatever reason, you could argue that Hiroshimasaurus is going to drain energy from within him, essentially upping its own scaling to that level, which is a weird way of winning against a being that powerful. But if it makes a mistake like that, it could potentially cause Hiroshimasaurus to win, even if it has that stupid scaling, that insane, like, one-shot universe scaling. So with the angel scaling, obviously I have day 17 or the Wandering Faith winning with basically no difficulty at all, unless it tries to eat him. Then it's more debatable, because that's just a weird scenario to happen. But if you take the angel scaling away, Hiroshimasaurus is likely winning just by keeping his distance and playing it smart against what is essentially a super-sized sauropod with very crappy weapons to try to hurt him with. Next we have Cartoon Cat. Starting off, there are statements that put Cartoon Cat above giants or at the giants level. If you take that into consideration, you can take the angel scaling. Obviously he's going to one-shot. There's also some statements that imply he's like 12-dimensional. Very shaky, very inconsistent, but they do exist, and you can use them if you want to. So if you take those two things into consideration, Hiroshimasaurus is getting pimp slapped into the sun, and it's over. So without that, though, using more consistent scaling with what he can do, we know he's stronger than Siren Head, like, by a lot. Like, he actively plays around when he's fighting him. He scales to beings like Longhorse and other stuff, which all are around that Siren Head level of power. You can scale him even higher in this, so he gets to some pretty... He can at least get to, like, country level, just off vague showings of power. We know he's not a gag character like some people seem to think he is. He's not a gag character. He's more like Pennywise in the books. He's like an extra-dimensional entity in a physical form it chose. So like the Thing from The Thing, but on steroids. And also, it doesn't need to shapeshift into people to kill them. It just picks a cute little cartoon cat form, and then it just fucking rips your face off and eats all your limbs and skins you alive, because he's an asshole. He likes seeing you scream because he's a dick. Yeah, he's a douchebag. That's the best way I can put it. Is Cartoon Cat is the epitome of an asshole. Like, worse than like Dio from JoJo or like Reverse Flash. This guy's he just hates you for no reason. He just hates you because yeah, he just doesn't like you, and he wants to see everything you've ever loved crumble. Because yeah, why not? Unfortunately, Hiroshimasaurus is the exact same way for no reason whatsoever. So if these two encounter each other, first of all, Cartoon Cat's gonna be cocky because he's gonna be like, this is gonna be like fighting Siren Head, but like a little bit harder. Hiroshimasaurus is just gonna see this cat thing. He's gonna be like, oh, food, and he's gonna try to bite his face off instantly, no hesitation. Cartoon Cat's gonna like be fine because he's Cartoon Cat. He's gonna find a way to either regenerate or he's just gonna like teleport. And then he's gonna be like, okay, this thing's an asshole and it wants to kill me, so he's gonna start using his weird little stretchy stuff, which is gonna go very poorly for him, because he's gonna wrap it around Hiroshimasaurus. He'd be like, I can do a Siren Head and just ragdoll him. Hiroshimasaurus is gonna not do that because he's way heavier than Siren Head, and he's gonna bite his arms. He's gonna fling him around through like 12 buildings. He's gonna start killing all the people that Cartoon Cat wanted to kill. It's gonna piss Cartoon Cat off. He's going to start using all of his hack stuff to try to intimidate Hiroshimasaurus. He's just going to stare at him like he's an idiot. Like he's probably going to be doing that weird laugh, roar thing he does. Never thought I'd be intimidated by Godzilla laughing, but I am now. He's doing a weird little face tilt, smile face that he does, and Cartoon Cat's going to be like, okay. And then they're just going to start fighting each other again, and there's not going to be a winner. Cartoon Cat with higher dimensional scaling one-shots, but normally he's not going to die because his generation has like almost no limit. And his hacks are like insane, but he's not going to be able to kill Hiroshimasaurus unless they're fighting by like a volcano. You can just kick him in there. Like he's not winning normally. You could rip Hiroshimasaurus in half, skin him alive, like burn him with like 12,000 flamethrowers, drop him to a pool of acid, then throw what's left of him into a blender, and he's going to be back in like 2 seconds. And he's gonna be pissed. Also, he's not gonna get any fear out of Hiroshimasaurus, or he's not gonna get any real enjoyment out of the fight, because the whole time he's beating on Hiroshimasaurus is not only dishing out just as much pain back, but he's actively enjoying the fight. He likes being able to chew on his little chew toy for more than like a millisecond. So really, Cartoon Cat is getting a taste of his own medicine kinda with this, and he's not gonna like it. So I see it either they just keep fighting each other for like a very long time until both get bored, or Cartoon Cat just is like, screw this isn't fun, he just leaves. And Hiroshimasaurus just looks confused when he just teleports, and then that confusion lasts for like a whole of 2 seconds before he sees a group of people to go munch on. So that's how I see a fight with Hiroshimasaurus and Cartoon Cat going. Two really evil demon monsters slap on each other for like 3 minutes. Either one teleports away, or they keep fighting for like 3 days, and then they just get bored and leave each other alone. Maybe they even team up. That'd be horrible for everybody. But yeah, I see Cartoon Cat having a very, very bad time there, regardless. And Hiroshimasaurus having the time of his life. So yeah, that is how I see Hiroshimasaurus doing against basically all of Trevor Henderson verse, besides like a couple ones I left out, like that weird cow thing I forgot the name of, long horse, short horse, meat horse. There's too many weird, their names are so weird. Anyways, yeah, that's how I see this going. If you guys liked the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Also check out Ukrainezilla's channel. That's where Hiroshimasaurus is from. Also check out Trevor Henderson stuff if you like his stuff, obviously. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.